Why do most celebrities spend their entire careers trying to seem perfect? But Emily Blunt does the complete opposite and somehow ends up being even more loved for it. She has been in Hollywood for over 2 decades, worked with the biggest directors, won every award imaginable, and yet she still shows up to interviews looking like she genuinely forgot she was famous. And the crazy part? That's not an act, that's just her. Let's start with the role that almost never happened. Emily Blunt came very close to turning down The Devil Wears Prada. Not once, but twice. She didn't think the script was interesting enough. Her agent practically begged her to reconsider. She finally said yes, and then went on to steal every single scene from Meryl Streep herself. Even Meryl admitted it. The woman almost left one of the most iconic performances in Hollywood history sitting on a table because she simply wasn't feeling it that day. And that's the thing about Emily Blunt. She doesn't chase roles for money or fame or awards. She's turned down massive projects that other actresses would have sold their souls for. She once said she only takes a role if she feels genuinely scared by it, because if it doesn't scare her, it means she already knows how to do it, and what's the point of that? Most celebrities are terrified of failure. Emily Blunt is terrified of being boring, and that difference changes everything about how she works. But let's talk about what happens when Emily Blunt is not on set, because that's where things get really interesting. She doesn't have a carefully managed public persona. She doesn't send PR-approved quotes, she just talks. And whenever she talks, something unforgettable comes out. Like the time she was on a live awards show and roasted her own husband, John Krasinski, so hard that the audience went completely silent for a second before bursting out laughing. She didn't warn him. She didn't hold back. She just said it. And John sat there with the face of a man who has learned to accept his fate. That dynamic between Emily and John is something Hollywood has never quite seen before. Most celebrity couples are extremely careful about how they present themselves in public. Everything is curated. Everything is soft launched. But Emily and John are the complete opposite. They make fun of each other constantly. They tell embarrassing stories about each other in interviews. And instead of it making them look bad, it makes everyone love them even more because it feels real. In an industry full of people performing their own lives, they actually seem to be living one. Now let's talk about award shows, because Emily Blunt has a very specific and very honest relationship with them. She's been nominated more times than most people can count. She's won. She's lost. She sat in that audience and had cameras zoom in on her face at the exact wrong moment. And unlike most celebrities who pretend it doesn't affect them, Emily has actually said publicly that award season is one of the most stressful and uncomfortable experiences in Hollywood. She described sitting in the audience waiting for your category as feeling like slow motion public humiliation, because even if you smile, everyone can see that you're pretending. Most stars would never say that out loud. Emily said it in a major interview and then laughed about it immediately after. And speaking of things she says out loud, can we talk about how Emily Blunt handles red carpets? She doesn't arrive 3 hours early for a full glam team session. She doesn't rehearse her poses. She's been photographed mid-blink, mid-sentence, mid-law, and she genuinely does not care. She once said that the idea of practicing how to walk down a red carpet was one of the funniest things she'd ever heard. Meanwhile, other celebrities have literally hired coaches just for that. Emily just walks out, waves at people, and somehow still ends up being the best dressed person there. But here's what most people don't know about her. Before she became this effortlessly confident woman you see today, Emily Blunt had a serious stutter as a child. A stutter so severe that she had trouble speaking in class, in public, in social situations. She's talked about how isolating it was, how she felt like she couldn't communicate who she actually was because the words wouldn't come out the way she wanted. And then a teacher suggested she try acting, specifically because the act of becoming a character allowed her to speak in a completely different way. And it worked. Emily Blunt, one of the most naturally gifted speakers in Hollywood, found her voice through pretending to be someone else. That's not just inspiring. That's actually one of the most poetic things in the entire industry. Now let's talk about Oppenheimer, because Emily Blunt's experience making that film is something people don't talk about nearly enough. She played Kitty Oppenheimer, a role that required her to carry enormous emotional weight in almost every single scene. She was filmed at the same time as Barbie was shooting nearby, and the internet went crazy over the fact that these two massive films were happening basically side by side. But while everyone was focused on the fun contrast between the two sets, Emily was quietly delivering what many critics called the most underrated performance of her entire career. She didn't get the awards attention she deserved for it, and when interviewers brought that up, instead of being diplomatic, she just said, Yeah, that was frustrating. Because it was. And she said it. Let's also talk about how Emily Blunt handles fame in her personal life, because this is where she's genuinely different from almost every other A-list celebrity. She doesn't have a large security team. She doesn't avoid going out in public. She doesn't send her kids to school with bodyguards and drivers and PR handlers. She's been spotted doing completely normal things. Grocery shopping, waiting in line at coffee shops, sitting in traffic, things that most celebrities at her level actively avoid because they've built a lifestyle around never being inconvenienced. Emily Blunt just lives her life, and when people recognize her, she talks to them, not for 30 seconds and then walks away. Actually talks to them, and her co-stars always say the same thing about working with her. They say she makes every scene better, not because she's trying to outperform everyone, but because she's so genuinely present in every moment. She doesn't check her phone between takes. She doesn't disappear into a trailer and only come out when she's needed. She stays on set, watches other people's scenes, engages with the crew. Directors say she's one of the few actors who makes the entire production better just by being there. Not just her own scenes, but the energy of the whole thing. But then there's the other side of Emily Blunt, the one that has absolutely no patience for things she finds ridiculous, like the press tour experience. She has said that doing back-to-back interviews for weeks straight, answering the same 5 questions in slightly different ways, is one of the most mind-numbing experiences a human being can go through. She's been caught on camera visibly losing her will to live during particularly slow interview rounds. She doesn't fake enthusiasm she doesn't have. If the interview is good, she lights up completely. If the interviewer asks something she's already answered 40 times that day, you can see it on her face immediately, and instead of hiding it, she usually just says something like, "Oh, we're doing this question again," and then answers it anyway with the same energy she had the first time, because she's a professional. But the face is there. The face is always there. Now here's something that rarely comes up when people talk about Emily Blunt. She is genuinely deeply funny, not in a rehearsed celebrity way, but in the way that people who grew up in households where wit was the main language are funny. She's quick, she's dry. She doesn't do obvious jokes. She does the kind of humor where you don't always realize what she said until 3 seconds after she said it, and then you laugh out loud alone in a room. John Krasinski, who is himself a very funny person, has said in interviews that Emily is funnier than him. And the way he says it, you can tell it's both a compliment and something he's made his peace with. And the last thing, the thing that ties all of this together, Emily Blunt has been in this industry long enough to have seen what it does to people. She's watched careers get built on image and collapse when the image cracks. She's watched people pour everything into being a certain kind of celebrity and then have nothing left when the celebrity part fades. And she made a decision early on that she was never going to be that person, that her identity was never going to be tied to how famous she was, or what role she booked, or what award she won. That she was going to be a person first, a wife, a mother, someone who makes people laugh at dinner, someone who goes grocery shopping and gets stuck in traffic and has bad days and good days. And because of that decision, she's built something that almost no one in Hollywood manages to build. She's built an actual life, and somehow that has made her more famous than almost anyone else anyway.